So the question could be asked, what is Reef Beef? Well, Reef Beef is a podcast for the conversations that we have after the show when we have trade shows and we're all in the bar and talking about whatever we saw or whatever we heard and having a couple beers or not beers or whatever's, but it's just loose. It's loose and a friendly conversation about reef related stuff. So if you like that kind of thing, stick around. But if you don't like that thing, then still stick around because you might end up liking it. Welcome to the show. This is Reef Beef. My name is Ben.
My name is Richard.
And today we're going to be talking about some Reef Factory stuff. We're going to be talking about the 6 things I do when I first walk up to an aquarium and start cleaning them. And a couple other things. We would like to thank saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting and Supply, and PolypLab. Thanks for powering us. Right off the bat, I want to say thank you on our membership, our Reef Beef membership. We have a new silver level beefer, Zachary. I didn't put his last name because I wasn't sure who doesn't want to be talked about, but Zachary, thank you for signing on to the beef.
Yeah, and thanks for all the other beefers as well. That's a new thing. We're going to start saying people's names.
Yeah, and welcome you into the beef family.
The family. The beef.
A warm greeting. Hey, Richard, check this out. I have a cool video that I took at a client's place of 2 clownfish hosting in a torch coral. So it's 2 clowns. Oh, I said it wrong. I said hosting in a torch. It's the torch that hosts the clownfish. But, you know, and inevitably they do that. Most times I don't see them hurt corals. But, you know, it's not. I wonder what you think about that sort of situation, Richard, because they're not hurting the torch, but it's not the right scenario that they should be doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it if they're not hurting the torch. It looks really cool.
I wonder if I don't know how I would know that, but I wonder if they do this sort of thing in the wild sometimes.
I don't believe they host. Well, maybe they do. I don't know the answer. But there's more anemones in the wild, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's just a couple of clownfish that went astray, and they're just like, oh, we're hosting in this bunch of algae here.
Yeah, and I suppose it also has to do with what hosting activity looks like to you. You know, because sometimes when clowns get in the flow and sit like at the corner of a tank at the top.
Yeah.
Is that hosting behavior right there? I'm not really sure. Does anybody know? Are you Ben
like
Titus?
The water is water is hosting them.
Yeah, well, it's hosting behavior. Or hosted behavior. Ben Titus, if you hear me, get out of the water. Where are you right now? You're somewhere exciting. I can't remember. But get out of the water and let us know about this. Yeah, they do that. I wish mine would do that. Mine were in an anemone in my display for a long time, and then I took the anemone out because I don't trust anemones. And
did they got weird?
No, they're still in the tank, but there's nothing with tentacles that long, I guess. I have one torch and it's small, and I have a bunch of frog spawn and they don't care. But I think it's neat.
I've seen them hover above tridacna clams too. That's one sort of weird.
Yeah. So if you didn't know that, clownfish will host in something else besides an anemone, or will take up residence. They don't really host. They're hosted by.
Yeah.
We've so lost that fight. This is such a dumb thing. Everything we care about is dumb, I think, is the conclusion I'm coming to.
Yeah, but I catch myself saying stuff like that too.
Well, yeah. That's like a Acropora or Acropora or any of that stuff. We can't fight the avalanche of. I guess we can't.
I remember for so many years. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We just need to not care if people say it wrong or not. We can still say what we think is the right thing. What were you saying about a few years ago?
For many years, like it would bug me when people would say, "Oh, the Nemo," but like I don't even. And now I call them Nemos now. Whatever. You can't beat them. Join them. I know what people mean. Or the Dory.
That's hey, you want the hobby to be big, that's what makes the hobby bigger. If your goal, it's not my goal, it's people who make stuff to sell, the new people's goal is to make the hobby as big as possible, then we're going to call them Nemos and Dories.
When you feel one would sometimes feel weird to be like that meme that actually, and it's just like, okay, whatever. I do it the same way. Like we had a past show where someone says like chicklid. And so I quit correcting them. Instead, I would say like, oh yeah, commonly African cichlids do blah, blah, blah. So I won't correct them, but I'll use it in a sentence to try to see if they catch on and move forward. Yeah, and even if they don't, who freaking cares?
Well, I used to come at it from the idea that people wanted to learn stuff. And they don't. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, but I do it too. When I talk to buddies and I say, Cyphastria, and they say Cyphastrea, and we're like, okay, no big deal.
Right. But that's because you all live in Texas and words don't mean anything or have any pronunciation. And but if you have a piece of it, it's interesting. I guess I used to think that I think it's interesting that people would want to know the correct things, but they don't. And I also think the difference we've been talking about between casual learners and idiot learners like us who go all the way into the hobby,
savant,
are two different things. And at least for me, understanding that they're different things will probably make me healthier in the world. There's no reason to go to beginner form and go, oh, it's hosting in the anemone. I mean, there is, but there isn't, because no one cares. But at that, they just don't really care.
Yeah.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
saltwateraquarium.com. That is the place to go. I was just looking on there a couple days ago because I have a client that wants an adaptive reef controller cabinet.
Oh, yeah. Adaptive reef stuff. That's Harry's stuff. That stuff's great.
So we're going to look at doing that from saltwateraquarium.com.
Right. I'll find it on the app right now.
Go find it now. They either have the board or they have cabinets. But anyways, you can find that stuff there, and they can get it to you quickly because they have 3 locations from the Northeast and smack in the middle, and then down in the West that they get your stuff out. That was a smart move, but I guess they're like little warehouses where they concentrate their stuff to try to get the stuff to you as fast as possible. They have a lot of online articles and a lot of online resources. They have a rewards program, all sorts of stuff. They've been with us from the beginning.
Yeah, since before the beginning. So if you have a reef tank and you need stuff, go to saltwateraquarium.com and see what they got, if they got what you need.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
Richard, you had spawning behavior.
We're right in the middle of the window that I check for spawning. And for me, what that usually means is, right, and I've got 2 sets of corals that are spawning this year that have eggs. Right behind me on the top is the Acropora hyacinthus that I bred, that came from, gametes in 2020. So they're 3 years old, and they totally have eggs. So hopefully they'll spawn, and hopefully I have 2 genotypes. And in the bottom, I've got 10 or 12 colonies of Millipora that were gravids from the wild. The Millipora came late. I usually like to get this stuff in at the beginning of September. That's important because maybe that's why what happened last night happened. Usually in the spawning, everything happens 12 to 13 days after the full moon. So for me, that means stuff should be spawning really on the 8th, 9th, or 10th. That's like the main window. But because I'm not an idiot, I watched the entire possible window, because stuff in the wild can go 2 or 3 days after the full moon. So now we're 5 or 6 days after the full moon. Last night, I'm in my house goofing around. I'm checking lightly. I'm trying to get a little cavalier about it. instead of checking every 15 minutes and, oh, whoa, I'm trying to go, yeah. I know when this is going to happen and it's not tonight, but I'm checking. So they usually start setting around 5:45 to 6:15. So I check there, I don't see any setting. I check again at 6:30, I don't see any setting. I check again at like, what time was that actually? I check again at 7 and I don't see any setting or spawning, but I'm not really looking very hard because I'm trying to trust. It's like, for 5 or 7 spawns, it's been consistent 12 or 13 days after the full moon. I'm actually putting together a spawn playlist because Alex, if you haven't seen Alex's tank, you should go we should put a link, and we need to have Alex on the show because his tank is almost done. It's like 4,200 gallons that he built out of like soapstone and touch and foam. But Alex was like posting sexy songs to play for the corals. And so I was putting together a Spotify playlist of sexy songs for the corals. And I'm like, and I look up and it's like 7:20 and I'm like, oh, I missed by 5 minutes. They're not going to go tonight. Fuck it. And I added one more song, Business Time, by the way, by Flight of the Conchords. And I went, this is stupid. I should test. Like the guilt got better of me. And I went and I opened the top, nothing. I was like, okay. I opened the bottom, and as soon as I smelled it, I went, they're spawning right now. I can smell it.
Oh, you can smell it.
Smelled it right away. I went, they're spawning. So I reached in, I turned off all the flow through. I haven't done that. I haven't turned off the flow in the tank until I see setting. And then I start seeing some eggs and stuff, and I see that there's 2 colonies spawning. And they're not going very big. It's early, so that's but only 2 colonies out of the 10 or 12 colonies I have spawn, and nothing from the top. So what might it be? It might be that these came late. I got these at the beginning of October or mid-October, actually, rather than in September. So it might take 2 months or 3 months for them to spawn late. Or they might just be close enough to the train is going and they're going to go at this time. So somebody else I know who's working also had a trickle spawn yesterday. They only had 1 colony go, and I have not heard anything. It's too early. Their spawning will happen in about 3 hours here. So I've got some pics. I should show you these pics. So it's very exciting.
Crazy. I used to take care of a tank that had 6 tridacnas, and they would breed, or at least they would spawn all the time. At least they would kick out. Mostly it was, I could tell, was the sperm. And then I had one that was kicking out eggs. But it seemed like, a couple of them throwing that out would sort of trigger the other ones. Do acroporids do that?
We don't really know any of these
trigger
answers.
Each other.
We know, some people know a little bit. I don't know much. It's very complicated. And we're not sure what does the trigger. So, but if there is the trigger, why did only 2 of them go last night? Yeah. If there is something that goes into the water that will trigger them, it didn't trigger 80%.
Huh.
So I don't know, man. I'm just glad. This is madness. It's madness every time I do it. And I am just thrilled that my protocols are such that I got it. Right.
Yeah.
And then it was 2. Here's all my stuff from last night, by the way. It's just jars and shit. Fat separators and a microscope and cups. And it was great because I went, oh, the one colony is going light and the other is going heavier. So I know what to do. You need sperm and eggs from 2 different colonies, right? Otherwise they won't reproduce. Really? So the most important thing is getting the sperm from the small colony, right? Because there's a lot of sperm in the egg bundles, in the sperm and egg bundles, and there's fewer eggs. So if I've got a lot of eggs from one and a little bit of sperm for another, I want to make sure I collect that sperm and make sure it's segregated and I don't throw it away by accident. Yeah. So I collected as much as I could from the small one and kind of left it in its own container, knowing that I was going to add bundles from the other containers to that one to try to concentrate that sperm as much as possible
Oh,
because
okay.
it was a small spawn.
If you shut the water off, does that sperm sort of concentrate it? All of it floats, correct?
All of it floats. So the other thing that's cool, the way I do it is I collect it off the surface rather than setting up nets with a collection tube because I don't have the space for nets in a collection tube.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to go off and yada, yada, yada. So I just do it from the surface. But that also means that as I'm collecting off the surface, I can also collect sperm that's sitting up there as well. So that's good. Be better if I could collect it all into little tubes and then I know what everything is, but I just don't have the space.
That sounds like crazy time.
I don't know what I would have to do something very different. But what I'm doing is fine. And so I mixed it, I did it, let it sit for an hour, and we have got here. I'll show you pictures now. Sorry. So that's it was such a small, it was a smallish spawn, a very small spawn, 2 colonies, and I didn't catch it. So it was like I took like 5 pictures and a quick video and then was out. It was like, now I have to work now. I can't mess around with the coral.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is this coral is one of the ones that had some STN or RTN on it, some necrosis.
Yeah, see it.
And I actually believe that this is the one that I cracked 3 branches to look for eggs and did not find any. So it went off. So that's pretty cool. Then that's a picture of a bunch of sperm and eggs. That's already fertilized. So that's fertilizing right there. So you can see
it's okay for it to sit sort of stagnant for a little bit.
I mix it every 10 minutes or so, but you want the sperm to get to it. And you can see, can you see this cursor on your screen?
Yeah.
So these egg bundles are bigger than these egg bundles.
Oh, I see.
So this is not a bundle anymore. This is already popped. These are ones getting ready to pop. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine to leave them stagnant for the hour or 2 that fertilization occurs. Then I put them in the bouncing. Do I have a video of that? I'll show that to you in a minute. I think
you do somewhere because I was watching it where you have it to where the cup is held up by some foam and it's sort of, and you have your wave maker sort of bouncing it gently.
Yeah, let me show you that now because that's
hell, it's right behind you, isn't it?
It's right here.
Yeah.
You can't see it. It's over here.
Yeah.
That should be on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Go. And so you can see that's a wave maker bouncing the water gently like that. And it's really nice because it keeps all of these coral embryos just moving a little bit so they don't stick to the sides of the container right there. That's a problem. Is they can stick to the sides where they dry out, which is not bad, or they can stick near the sides and get bacteria that takes them over.
Oh.
So I set that to bouncing last night and then came in about 8 hours later and threw some stuff on the microscope. And here's the first picture.
Whoa. Is that like a single drop of water?
That is a single drop of water, and you can see the tick marks behind there.
Oh, okay.
For the
millimeters.
And let me actually make sure I know what I'm talking about.
They look like cornflakes.
That's it's called the cornflake stage.
Oh, da-da. That's so cool. Man, a lot of them fit inside of a drop of water.
Yeah. So the space between here and here, the long lines is 1 millimeter.
Okay.
So the short line is 0.5 millimeter. So that gives you an idea of how big they are, which is nice that they are.
Boy, they are tiny.
They're prawn chipping, so they'll chip like this and then they get all flat, and then they'll roll up again into a ball, which might be here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. Did that one maybe not get it done?
It maybe didn't, or it may be super advanced. It's hard to tell. And I only did one check because I'm trying to be a little bit more cavalier about this.
Yeah.
Today, and then I had to get ready for the show or whatever. So that's that, and here's a little closer up. And yeah, they look like shrimp chips or potato chips or prawn chips. And that's good development. So and then they'll turn back into a ball, and then they'll start to spin, and then they'll start to spin faster, and then they'll start to swim, and then they'll elongate, and then hopefully we'll be ready for some settlement action in 5 to 8 days.
That is crazy. Do you know what that means when they do that? Look like a scab? Like what are they doing by doing that?
They're developing. I don't have a development chart here, but
That's so weird though that they start off like a BB and then do that scab thing and then go back to a BB.
You know, they start out as an egg, right? And then they start dividing and flattening and chipping. And then as the cells divide more and more, they shape up into a round ball with cilia. It's pretty cool.
They're little swimming hairs.
Yeah. So I come in here and I check over here now, and everything's bouncing really well. I'm thrilled. I did the bouncing a little bit better. I figured out a better way to. Basically, I've got the bucket with a loop of coated wire, and then I've got a hook of coated wire that comes over, that's clamped to the top, and then it just kind of sits in it. So it's like a hook through a round ring.
That's very suggestive there.
So it all gets, so it doesn't get caught up, and it keeps moving. And the current, the reason they're stuck to the tops is because the flow of this is actually going to push it all to one side. And I don't want that. I want to take advantage of the water going up and down. And the Geocanthus is still in here, as you can see.
Eyeball looking good.
What's its eye looking like? The eye is slightly swollen.
I mean, he's got lots of movement though.
Oh yeah, he's fine. Eats like a champ. We'll check the eye in a day or two, and too much is going on for me to treat him, but he looks good. We'll see what he might just
crazy,
live, man. He might just live in here until this is done.
Yeah, why not?
But I'm telling you, man, I love having this here. I need this in my. Maybe I'll do a small, just a 8-inch wide that goes underneath my bog plants, because it is so convenient. There's still frags in there from yesterday too.
It's just handy.
It's just super handy. Super handy. So yeah, they're spawning. So the next 2 or 3 weeks are a little crazy. And then the next couple months are a little crazy as I'm dealing with babies again. I hope, fingers crossed, that all this works and that these survive and that more come.
So, but just because those 2 went off, that's not going to tell you that the others are necessarily going to go off. But you know the general window that they should.
Yeah, and there's often 3 or 4 nights of spawning for the same corals. There's a first night where they go, "Ooh, we're a little sexy," and then usually the next night is like, "Whoa, we don't care about sex. We just want it to happen." And then
would those guys do it again?
Maybe, maybe not. The whole colony didn't go. There were definitely branches that did not go. So it's really hard to know what's going to happen, but we'll see. I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Madness.
That's too cool.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
Champion lighting
and supply. They are here for all your needs. Champion lighting and supply. Prost. Champion lighting. I just got it delivered from them because I have a wholesale account with them.
What'd you get from them?
Like 50 poly filters. I got some fittings. What else? I got an alkalinity test kit. Got a couple other things. A whole big box. And I love how they pack it. And I don't know, it sounds goofy, but it helps me sleep at night because they have this machine that cuts up cardboard and they pack it with that. And I tell you too, without the like tree hugging part, like dealing with packaging peanuts, styrofoam peanuts in an order is very annoying. And Champion Lighting Supply doesn't do that.
Yeah, we don't talk about this much, and I think it's a huge selling point for Champion. The the cardboard boxes that they were going to recycle or throw away anyway. Then they would have to buy a bunch of plastic or packing peanuts to pack their boxes with. Instead, they take the stuff that somebody would be driving away in a truck every day, and they run it through a machine that crunches it up. That's the packing material. And now it's great. It's reuse. It's just everything great. And I want to support that as much as I can.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
So, Richard, I wanted to talk about like the first things I do when I walk up to a tank to clean it. So I whittled it down to the 6 things that Ben does when he first walks up to an aquarium.
So this is a tank that you are going to service.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much this is what I would do to my tanks at home.
Right. So everybody, this is what Ben does when he's going to check a tank to see what needs to be done to it that session.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't read these, so I don't know what this. I hope it's like, take off your pants.
Yeah. No, it's very tedious. It's like driving to their driveway and then get out of the car and then close the door. No, I'm joking. But so generally the first thing that I do is check for alk. And Richard and I are both fans of, well, Richard runs a Trident, but when he's spot checking things, we both like these very simplistic alkalinity test kits. There's Richard uses API. I tend to use Tropic Marin, but Fritz came out with one. It's just a 1 drop equals 1 DKH, just an easy, because for my purposes, like I don't really want to know 8.6 from 8.3 to 9.1. I just want to know 7, 8, 9. And I write that down in notebooks that I keep around the aquarium so I can refer back to last time I was there. But it's just so easy. I just go in and get the, yeah, look at that. You can get the, if you want to do that too, you got the Reef Beef tank notes. You can do that too. But
I should cross out your picture though.
Yeah. There, draw some long hair in there.
I'm almost done with this one. I need a new one.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe you should support us.
Fuck that shit, you shill.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say a little thing. This was my little thing about the alkalinity test kit.
Yeah.
So Richard's making fun of me because the API and the Tropic Marin are basically the same thing, but the Tropic Marin costs more because it's a German product. There's no, not that I know of, there's no real benefit from the Tropic Marin over the API. So it's just like you're just spending more money for no reason. And the Fritz came out with one. So I like Fritz as a company. So I was excited about that. I do have a little complaint about it though, because on the Tropic Marin, I like how you really have to squeeze the bottle to get a drop out. You have to put a little bit of effort into it. And the reason I like that is because it controls the drops coming out. The little nozzle on the Fritz bottle, especially when I first got it, you turn it upside down, it's already starting to drip. And you're like, wait a minute, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, what the hell? And then even now when I've used half of it, it doesn't take much to squeeze it. It just starts pouring out. Does the API generally?
Why don't you just use the API?
I might move to that next.
$8 and it works.
Yeah, that's about what I think Fritz was trying to go after API, because that's about what the Fritz one was. And the Tropic Marin is double that one. Yeah,
this is going to end up being like filter socks for you. I think you're going to go, why didn't I just use this API one? Why am I dicking around? No,
just like,
although I do want to point out, I think people dicking around with stuff is important, and you need to mess around. And I don't want to say dick around. That's misogynist. I want fuck around, play around with, right. You can listen to us if you want, or listen to me. Don't listen to Ben on this one. The API works fine. That's all you're doing. This is not a rocket science titration. This is pretty straightforward. Or you can go, I want to see for myself, so I'm going to buy several kits and play around. I do
like the Tropic Marin goes from blue to red. I sort of like that. For me, I'm not colorblind, so that contrast for me is really strong.
What the fuck that's supposed to mean?
Hey, you pick fun of me for diabetes. I got to say something about your colorblindness.
True, it's true.
But wait,
I might not be able to see blue and red, but I'll have both my feet.
Yes. We'll battle in the old folks' home.
Oh,
Someday.
I'll win because I'll just push you over, Hobbles.
But does the API go from blue to yellow?
Sure.
Fritz goes from blue to yellow.
I think it does. It does. I just know it changes and I can see the change.
Yeah.
Okay. So you check your ALK. Go okay. And next,
I check my ALK, and then
next,
I calibrate my refractometer. And the reason I'm calibrating my refractometer so much is because I am carrying this around with me. And that sometimes that's unfortunate because it's really hot or really cold outside. So I'll carry my refractometer into the room with me and set it down because I want it to sort of, become room temperature. That can sometimes be a problem. So I'm careful with that. But I find that I do have to calibrate a little bit more than the next person because I am carrying it around outside of a house. But so I'll calibrate my refractometer with distilled water right off the bat, make sure it's zeroed. Then the third thing I do is I prepare or check the water change. The reason I say check is either we're making water on site and I've already had some prepared water and I might need to touch up the salinity on either side, or there's some cases where I have to make water on the spot. So I want to do that early on because obviously you want to get that mixed and you want to get it ready to go as soon as you can get it going on. The next thing I like to do after that is clean the glass, storm the tank, disturb the substrate a little bit. So what I'm wanting to do is, clean the algae off the viewing panels and kick up all the detritus and get everything kicked up, get all the dirt kicked up for what I'm about to do, the water change. I want to kick that up so I can, clean the filters, wet skim, all that kind of stuff, get that detritus and that algae out of there. Then the fifth thing I do is I'll run carbon in pretty much every reef tank that I do, but I use these little thin bags from Tideline, has a zipper on the top. It's all plastic, no metal. And I use Kolar Labs carbon. And it's just like a little sausage. You can put it in baffles. There's been times where I put it in filter bags before, but I'm not a giant fan of that because it's, what do we call it? Frangible. So the water coming into the filter sock can pound it into dust. Like this sort of mesh. There's a dirty one, a dirty filter sock, but it's that mesh type. But yeah, generally I put it in baffles. If there wasn't a baffle.
That's a media bag, not a filter sock.
Okay.
They're different things.
Media bag.
If you use a filter sock for your carbon, you're going to have a bad time because it's going to fry.
Yeah. It'll fry, baby, fry. I also use a poly filter. I use poly filter. And this I can put in the sock or the whatever. There's nothing to fall apart there. And for me, it seems like it pulls out organics and whatnot. I've had a lot of luck with that. And then generally after that, I do like to wet skim. We've gone over that before. So that's why I kick up all the detritus and the dirt, because then when I start wet skimming, it seems to be much more attracted to coming out of the skimmer. And I got these off of Amazon. There's these little, just like any type of little cleaner thing. So I got these off of Amazon. I use these to clean the skimmer head while I'm wet skimming out, clean up the skimmer head, and pull off any drain socks or change the rolls on a fleece roller or the media bag, pull those off. And that's generally the first 6 things that I'll do when I come up to an aquarium.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
This show is also powered by
PolypLab.
PolypLab, who has the same way.
Look at that. If you're super
This
cool,
is-
you can get that sweater.
Such a good quality hoodie. I'm so happy. But today with PolypLab, I want to point this product out. It's the Reefroids. And why we're talking about the Reefroids. Look, this is like a commercial. Look,
Yeah.
it's like a still. You
Yeah.
won't believe what's in the jar.
It's like a 90s commercial.
Oh, no, it's totally, check on YouTube.
Oh, those like
Reefroids. I'm talking about Reefroids because the spawning is happening. This is one of my go-to foods for small baby corals. I like it very much. It's very easily available, and it seems to make a real difference. So they've got a bunch of other products. Check them out. PolypLab, wherever good reef stuff is sold. Thank you, PolypLab, for powering us, and we'll see you next time.
Powered by PolypLab.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
So, Richard, you and I were having some thoughts on the Reef Factory situation. You want to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot. And I just wanted to be clear that it's like, so what happened was that Reef Factory had some handshake deals with some independent distributors who had been working and spending money and prepping the product and getting ready to roll it out. And then Reef Factory decided to go with a major distributor and kind of cut everyone else out, or make life harder for everybody by going with a major distributor. And I wanted to be clear that, you know, from the Reef Factory perspective, look, I get it, right? It's you're in the business to make money. And if you think you're going to make more money doing this than that, you should do this instead of that. I can't give you any argument about that. But what it does do is it makes me not want to talk about the Reef Factory products that I like, because it's just kind of icky. And you know, it's just kind of icky to do that. You know, like if you kicked me out and had another person here,
I think it'd go the other way.
It's just kind of icky. It's just, you know, why you didn't need to do it like that. You know, could have been easier. It could have been cleaner for everybody.
These are the ugliness of business, right? I mean, these aren't personal. Sometimes, you know, we think of these as like personal things, but then just business takes this other route. And I see what you're saying. Like, it is icky when promises have been made and hands have been shaked and deals have been reached, and then someone sort of goes off of that. I mean, that's what's dangerous about not having really strong contracts.
Sure.
You know?
And you know, it's you know, I saw all the work that some of these distributors were doing to make the product better, and it made the product way better. So, and that's how I got to the products, was through the small distributor. And so I kind of just feel like it just makes, you know, maybe I'll talk about Reef Factory stuff in the future. You know, that I do like some of the stuff they have a lot. But right now I feel kind of gross about it, and it's going to take me a little bit to get over that.
I got one of their lights and I have it on my frag grow out, and I like it a lot. And, you know, there's that same thing where I was like, whoa, because they kind of came out of the woodworks for me. But since I don't, you know, read all the magazines and get on all the forums, but they just sort of came out of the woodworks, and I was like, wow, it seemed like they're making, you know, a bunch of good stuff. And I had to admit, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying this is silly, but I have like a lot of Polish ancestry, and this is a Polish company. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But, you know, and now, and I don't mean to be so disparaging on like Aperture, but, you know, they just went with Aperture. And now I'm trying to, I guess from my little part down here, I'm trying to figure out, what is Aperture going to do with this? Is it going to compete with Ecotech? Because it's a lot of similar type things, but they were going in a cool, different direction. And I thought they were angled to staying with the mom and pops and fighting that good fight like that, you know.
Well, that's what they said. They said it would be, you know, brick and mortar. And I think the only reason you know about that light, and the only reason you got that light, is because one of the independent distributors sent it to you.
Totally.
I wouldn't know anything about Reef Factory if one of these independent distributors hadn't gotten in touch with me and said, hey, check out this product. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, that's the footwork right there. Them doing the footwork for exposure.
Right. But, so now anything I said about, so now I'm supporting a different company that I thought I was supporting. And that's just a little weird. But the main point I wanted to get is I get it, right? It's, you know, everyone's in this, everyone who's doing this for more than a lark, you know, for more than a year or two is in it to make money. That's the whole point. You might love your job, but your job is there for you to make money. So I get why they did it. And I guess I'm saying I hope they get why I feel grumpy and why a bunch of people feel kind of grumpy about the whole situation. And hopefully, they'll do something. I don't know what, but either they'll do something and make us all feel better about it, or time will make it better, or it just won't. We won't use it.
I could see, like, I don't know anyone at Reef Factory, so I don't know, I have no personal relationship with them, but I wonder if they put much forethought into, if we make this move, we're liable to, sort of piss off some stores that we were saying we're going to do this, this, and this with. But I wonder if the gamble is in, but we're going to gain a ton of exposure and can sort of pave over that stuff we did and move on from there. I mean, I know for myself, like, I love the light, I enjoy the light, but I have a bunch of other products that I also like a lot. And I will probably just, I'll keep an eye on Reef Factory, but I don't know if my heart feels like it's into it.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it makes, going to a major distributor is easier for them. And, one container goes to one place and they're done. They're not shipping to, 5-10 different places. One set of books, the exposure. I get it. It's a bigger platform. I get it.
But then what happens if you did all that work to promise brick and mortars, hey, we're going to play with you, and then you don't? What happens on that when, like, oh, now Aperture does a distributing, and then, but everyone's like, no, we'll screw them. I mean, that's very blunt talk, but that's how I feel like it would sort of go, unless they could gain so much exposure that to a lot of people, this is just a new product. They don't know any sort of drama that happened.
Oh yeah. Most of the hobby does not have any idea of any of this drama, nor do they care.
No.
So most people aren't going to care at all. I mean, it's just, oh, here's another product. The interesting thing will be, because a lot of the Reef Factory stuff is already covered at least twice in the Aperture catalog there, that I'm interested in how that's going to work. What's actually going to sell and what isn't going to sell. Maybe they'll sell just fine. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's, I guess we talked about DeWalt versus Ryobi. It just, you go to the store that has both of them and you pick the one you want, and that's it. I'm mad at them. I don't want to give them any air right now.
So we're just clean our hands of them.
Yeah. And I just wanted to explain why I didn't want to give them any air. It wasn't, they're not evil. They're not terrible people. They made a bunch of people feel really bad. And so we might be grumpy about that for a while.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Right. Yeah. And I've got products of theirs that I like that I don't want to talk about because because I didn't get it through them.
Yeah.
It came through the independent distributors. That's the whole reason I know about them. And maybe to me and you and the other people who are grumpy about this right now, maybe in 3 months we don't care anymore. It's completely possible.
But that's why you're not gonna hear about them from us anymore.
Well, not right now. It's they hurt friends and colleagues, bottom line.
True.
By being by being like, well, that's business. It's like, okay.
I think we all hate it because we just want it to be a fair handshake and look into someone's eyes. But I mean, business just doesn't really work this way. You get hurt that way.
Yeah. And it was nice to have a product I was starting to really, a product line. I was like, oh, this is good. I think this might be great. This could be good if all of this pans out. And now it's like, I don't know. Now it's just Jabo's got new products, and if I need them, we'll use them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, this is absolutely a conversation we'd be having after a Reef trade show.
Oh, absolutely.
We'd absolutely be saying exactly, I'm just mad at them now. We'll see what happens. but I want to explain to you why I'm mad at them instead of, so you don't just think I'm mad at them because they're evil. They're not evil. They're trying to do the best they can. So is everybody else.
No, that is it. And that is our show. We would both like to thank you, and Snowman too, and Snowflake. And we would like to
thank you, Snowflake.
And we would all the whole family at Reef Beef would like to thank you for watching. And if you do like what you saw or heard, hey, give us all the clicks and the likes and the subscribes and the bells and the stars and all that stuff. It really helps our exposure. We like to thank saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting and Supply, and PolypLab for sponsoring the show.
See you on the next time. And remember, when you're looking at your tank, that light is really 8 minutes old, just like the sun. And you look fucking hot in that hat. Oh, that's what's happening.
Richard and I are talking past each other.
Going up.
Did you stay up late? Do you like my faux fur?
I love it so much.
I wish it had a head, like of a little marmot or something.
Wish you had a head. There.
Nomine Patre, Spiritus Sancti.
That should stop it from changing too much now.
What?